Okay, so we're continuing to read the Gospel of Luke on concurrently with Galatians, but this is a much faster speed. So we left off in Luke 1:20, and so we'll pick it up here with 1:21. Ke ein ho laos pros dokon ton Zakarian ke ethavmazon into chronidzein into naoaton. And the people And the people were waiting expectantly for Zechariah. And so what happened? They ethavmadzon, they marveled or they wondered. Into chronidzein, something like idiomatically, like they wondered at his stay in Naoapton, in the temple. In other words, they wondered why he stayed so long in the temple. What was causing his delay? Here we have another paraphrastic construction. This is a participle from the alpha contract pros dokao here. And here we're just looking at a present active participle, but it's an alpha contract, so it just means to wait for, to look for, to wait expectantly, to wait with longing. And then the other thing that I mentioned here is you have in here the preposition in plus the articular infinitive, chronidzein. So in plus the articular infinitive, while he gives a sense of like while he was delayed. Also, when infinitives serve as the object of the preposition, they're always articular. So, bear that in mind. This is what we call a circumstantial use of into plus the infinitive, which is used when modifying verbs of emotion, like marvel. So you can see other examples of this. Certainly, Luke is going to utilize that more. Exelton deuk eduneta la leise aptish que epechnosan hoti aptasion orakan into nao, que avtos ein dianevon aptius que diemenien kophos. So basically, when he came out, he was unable to speak to them, and they knew that he had seen a vision in the temple, um, and then he was dia nevon. What was he was motioning to them like almost like sign language, and diemeneng kophos was and he remained speechless, right? So diemeneng is from diameno, and then kophos is just an adjective which means speechless. So um, see if there's anything interesting here. I mean, heoraken is, you have this expression, the heoraken, and the word right before it, aptasion. Here, both the noun and the perfect active indicative verb, they're formed from the same root here, which is horao, which whenever horao is used with an accusative of thing, it means to see a vision. And so that's what you have here. The idea is seeing a vision, and then you have keaptos ein dianevon aptis, and he himself was, you have the intensive use of the pronoun there, and he himself was motioning to them, was making signs to them, like because he can't speak, so he's just making hand motions or head motions or something. It doesn't say how he was making the motions, but ke diamenenkofos, he remained mute or speechless. But dia nevo is just expressing an idea that whether through hand gestures or head nods or something, winking of the eyes, he's doing something. And I think this is a hapax, I would guess. But you'd probably see attestation for it in the Septuagint. Um, but we're not doing an in-depth study, so I would have to look that up and just verify. Let's keep reading. Que geneto hos eplesestan emere tes liturgias aptu belten iston icon aptu. So, and it came to pass that as the days of tes liturgias, we where we get liturgy from, but just means religious service. As the days of his religious service, op Elthane, were fulfilled, he went to his house. Op Elthane, it means to go. So you've got the fulfillment, hos eplestesen. So it came to pass that as the days of his religious service were fulfilled, go back and pick up that verb. He went to his house. Okay, verse 24. Methave taftes tas emeras sinelaven alisibat hine aptu. Okay, perike recuben heapten menas pende legusa. And after, you very common expression, metatauta. You see this a lot. Just means after these things, or after these days, because you have hemeras, and after these days, Elizabeth, the wife of him, conceived, and she was hiding herself for Perie Cruven. She was hiding herself for months. How many months? For Pente, for 5 months. Just to mention, Sune Laven. This comes from Sulambano, and it can mean a number of things, like to typically to seize or to grab hold of something. It can even mean to capture. But idiomatically also means to become pregnant or to conceive, and actually that usage has a pretty rich history in antiquity. So you actually see sun lambano to use that way very frequently. And then just perie cruven is from peri cruvo, which means to keep private, to hide, or to conceal something. So that may be a word or something that you're unfamiliar with, but um, oops, it may be a word you're unfamiliar with, but bears mentioning. Verse 25 then. Hotihutos mi pepieken Kyrios in hemeres eis epiden aphilen onidosmu in anthropis. Hoti then is that. It's going to be introducing a dependent statement here, direct speech, expressing what the legusa, the perfect participle, saying in verse 24. She said that, dot, 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 that sort of thing. Hutos is an adverb, just means thusly. Um, here it's modal. It's expressing manner. So the Lord has acted in this way or on my behalf, pointing probably either back to the fulfillment of the Lord's promise in verse 24, or it could be pointing forward to the second clause of this verse, which is just, this is what the Lord has done for me. When she says, he looked favorably upon me, took away my humiliation, that sort of thing. So, hatiuto. So to translate 25, this is what the Lord Pepiaking has done for me when he looked favorably on me and took away my disgrace among men, in anthropis, took away my disgrace among men. The pronoun mu there for me, it's, I guess, a dative of interest or something like that, or advantage. Did this in for my advantage or to my help. And then you have in plus the dative. This is what we would call a temporal use of the preposition. And then you have the relative pronoun heis, a dative pronoun, during which time we could say epiden, from epidon, to show favor, to, to it's like God smiling upon her. Aphelein is just from aphireo, epsilon contract. The infinitive probably here is functioning, to serve as a final clause, like in order that, or could be expressing result as well, where the result that what the Lord has done will keep people from looking down on me is the idea. And then you have mu, which is the genitive is probably adjectival, possibly objective. The disgrace I have endured, or could be simply just possessive, expressing the possession of the disgrace is the presumed. See, because what I think is being said here is that this disgrace, this reproach, whatever it is what people would have presumed in her time was God's divine chastisement, in that she was childless. And so for her to be not barren is for God to take away this reproach among men. And that's what you have there within among men, taking sort of he has taken away sort of this association, taken away the thing that was a public humiliation for me. Pretty rich stuff when you start thinking about what's taking place here. It's really really beautiful. So let's go a little bit further here into 26 and following. In the thomeni tho ekto apestale ho angelas Gabriel apatuteu eis polintes Galalias e onoma Nazareth. So now in the so we got mainly again. So this time it's tohecto in the 6th month. The angel Gabriel was sent from God to a city of Galilee, which is called Nazareth. That here is transitional. It's indicating a step in the narrative. In plus the dative, probably just temporal here, serving to introduce this temporal clause. You have apo plus the genitive, expressing source, something like, it could be expressing agency, but obviously, the angel Gabriel was sent from God, and was sent to the Galilean town of Nazareth. And then you have the relative pronoun, hey, and you have Nazareth. So just kind of wrapping up that sentence. So was sent from God to a city of Galilee, which is called Nazareth. Verse, and so just see if there's anything else there, and I think that's basically it for 26. So some of these sentences are actually very very straightforward, very very just plain grammatically. Verse 27, pros parthenon imnestevmenen Andri o onama Yosef ex ikio David que to onama te sparthenu Mariam. Um, so the angel Gabriel was sent pros parthenon to a virgin, having been engaged to a man. And here we're dealing with a perfect middle passive participle, feminine accusative, and was sent to a virgin having been engaged to a man, to whom, and then probably ellipted here, is the name Joseph of the house of David, and the name of the virgin, and again, an ellipted verb. The name of the virgin was Mariam, was Mary. Parthenon, virgin, you know, young maiden, but in this context, a virgin, Mary's virginity is noted by Luke. I don't think because virginity itself was noteworthy, um, but it's emphasizing the miracle. Elizabeth was barren, but Mary was a virgin. And then you have, the participle, a perfect passive participle, which is from menestevo, just to be betrothed. The participle, this is adjectival here. It's attributive. It's limiting the virgin. The normal custom was a betrothal at, like, I don't know, 12 or 13 years old, in marriage at like 14. And so um, this is the pledge to be married had taken place to a man. You've got Andri, which is the dative of direct object, and then the relative pronoun ho, to whom is is the name Joseph. X plus the genitive, um, just out of the house of David, a descendant of David, just expressing origin, where this came from. I mean, theologically establishing Jesus' Davidic heritage. Joseph, because was not the genetic father of the child, but that was not important, to the Jewish mind, given that an adopted child had the same rights as a natural child. Then you got tes parthenu, and the virgin's name, the name of the virgin, the genitive is adjectival. The name given to the virgin is essentially was Mariam, was Mary, which is just the predicate nominative. Mariam would be the predicate nominative of an assumed, as I said, to be verb. Mariam, that name just means excellence. And so, that's ooh, get rid of the clock there. So that picks us up with 28. K is Elton pros Aten Iben Here Kecharitomene Ho Kyrios Metasu. And having approached her, he said, Chaire, greetings. Greetings, favored one. The Lord is with you. Ace Elthon is from Ace Erkomai. It's an aorist participle here. This is a good example of what we call a participle of attendant circumstance, like entering, said, or went in and said. I mean, I suppose somebody could make an argument that it's temporal. The angel, as he approached her, or something like that. Chaire, greetings. Often it just means greetings, but here the idea of rejoicing could even be included. Possibly even an imperative, like almost like a command to rejoice, but most likely just in classical Greek, or idiomatically, typically just means something like hail, greetings, hail. Kacha ai retomene, which comes from charitao, another contract, omicron contract, from perfect passive participle. You are highly favored. The one who has been favored, as a passive, just kind of pulling out that idea. You're the one who has been favored. Um, and here, the participle is, um, like functioning like a vocative, like, oh, favored one. She is favored in that she's the recipient of God's free and unmerited grace. And then you have meta plus the genitive, the Lord is with you, um, and or even a hortatory subjunctive, to be, where to be verb is assumed, expressing, it could be something like expressing a wish. May the Lord be with you. Could be another way that we could see this. Um, Eve, uh, epithologo diach ditarche que dialogizeta potom potapos ie ho aspasmos hutos. And that is 29. But she was greatly perplexed at the message, and was pondering, was thinking, what sort of greeting this might be. What kind of aspasmos was this? Heve is just referencing Mary, where he is the nominative subject of die tarakhe. They is they here just is functioning like a transitional marker. It's letting us know there's a change in speaker. And when Greek does this, it often uses a nominative article with de, to show that there's a shift in speaker. And then you have this aorist passive, die tarkthe, which comes from dia tarasso. We've seen this word also in Galatians, to be greatly troubled, to be disturbed. Can even mean to be mentally disturbed, confused, perplexed. And so the only difference is in Galatians, it was just tarasso. Here it's dia tarasso. And so what's going on there is that the prefix is just strengthening the disturbance. So greatly disturbed, not just a little disturbed, but very, very disturbed, or completely confused, utterly confused, possibly even terrified, afraid. Then you have epi plus the dative. At why was she afraid? This is getting at a causal idea here. And then dialogizomai, the imperfect, to wonder, to consider, to ponder, to debate. And it carries this durative sense, like this ongoing act of pondering what is happening, consistent, constant thinking about this. Potapos, which is just the predicate adjective of ea, which is an optative. What sort just means what sort, used as an interrogative, to just kind of set up an indirect question. And as I said, ea is an optative, might be, you sort of expect a subjunctive verb here, but certainly would be more common in the New Testament to see a subjunctive. But classical idiom tends to use an optative for indirect questions. This is pretty normal, for this type of Greek, but a little bit more abnormal, if we're thinking about the New Testament. Let's see, verse 30 then. Try to read a couple of verses here. Ke ipen ha ongelos avte me fovu Mariam evres garcharin para to theo, ke idou sulepse in gastri, ke texe hion, ke kaleses ta onoma avtu Iesun. Hutos este megas, que ios ipsistu clethesete και δώσε αυτού Κύριος ο Θεός τον θρόνον Δαβίδ του πατρός αυτού, και βασιλεύσε επί των οίκων Ιακώβ εις τους αιώνος, και τες βασιλέως αυτού ουκ έστε τέλος. Είπεν δε Μαριάμ προς τον άγγελον, πως έστε τούτο, επί άντρα ου γινώσκω. Και αποκριθές ο άγγελος είπεν ευθέ, νεύμα Άγιον απελεύσεται επί σε, και δύναμις υψίστου επισκιάσεσι, δια και το γενόμενον Άγιον κληθέσετε Υιός Θεού. We'll just stop there. I think it's enough. We'll kind of grab these verses. Beginning in verse 30, and the angel said to her, do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with God. Avte is the pronoun to her. The angel said to her, it's the dative of functioning as an indirect object here. Mefovu from foveomai, you're dealing with a present imperative. Don't be afraid. Do not fear, Mary. The sense is stop being anxious, which obviously fear is going to be a normal response. It is this response we see all the time with theophanies, Christophanies, with a divine visitation. Fear is obviously going to be part of that. Gar is introducing, a sort of a reason why, a grounding clause, like why. Don't be afraid because, it's introducing a causal clause explaining why Mary should stop being afraid. Evres from evisko, aorist of we would say like evisko, to find favor. Mary found, in the sense of she found divine favor. And so you have this use of evres. She found favor, para plus the dative, favor with God, meaning God has chosen you for this privilege. Verse 31, and look, you will conceive, and behold, you will conceive in your womb, and will bear a son, and you will call his name Yesun, Jesus. And behold, that's just an interjection. Occurs all the time with ke, and it's letting us know here that what follows is going to be some additional information, and then you have Sulempse in gastri, future middle indicative from sulambano again. You will be with child. You'll conceive. You're going to bear a son. The language, does not imply something abnormal. It's reflecting really Old Testament usage. You'll become pregnant. You're going to be the mother of. If we're thinking about dynamically translating this, katheses from kaleo, future active indicative. You're to give. You are to give. You will call. Kaleo. You're to give him the name Jesus, or you're to call, in particular. You're to call his name Jesus, and you feel this imperatival force here. That's what you are to do. It's a command. It's like a command. It's, even though it's just an epsilon contract, in terms of an indicative verb, future active indicative, but it feels almost like an imperative here. It's got that it's got that force to it. Um, verse verse 32. Um, so verse 31, and look, you'll conceive in your womb, and you'll bear a son, and you'll call his name Jesus, or you are to call his name Jesus. Verse 32. Um, um, be great. He will be great, and he will be called Son of the Most High. This one will be great, we could say. Hutos este megas. This one will be great, and he will be called Son of the Most High. And the Lord God will give him the throne of David, his father. Hutos, just a pronoun, demonstrative pronoun. It's a subject of the to be verb. Um, Megos, an adjective meaning great. It's, here a predicate adjective. From kaleo here, the verb, you'll be called. Of course, we got pretty standard. Other stuff's here pretty standard, except for hipsistu. Just it's an adjective, a genitive there of the Most High. And because it's a superlative, we would translate it something like highest, the Most High. The context is indicating that here it's referring to God, and as a proper noun, it's without the article, therefore Son of the Most High, Son of God, and then you have avto, the dative pronoun, dative indirect object, and ton tronon, the throne, which is the accusative direct object from dose, of dose, I should say. Probably just a metonym here, where throne is just substituting for like another idea like ruling authority or something like that. So to put that all together, this one will be great. He'll be called Son of the Most High, and the Lord God will give him ruling authority, the ruling authority of his father David. Will give him the throne of his father David. Verse 33, and he will rule over the house of Jacob, unto the ages, and of his kingdom there will be no telos, there'll be no end to his kingdom. Basilevse from basilevo, future active indicative, to reign. And then you have epi plus the accusative, which carries the idea of over, upon, something like that. Istus aionios, forever, another idiom, which we see a lot. Yep, pretty standard. Verse 34, verse 34, but Mariam proston angelon, but Mary said to the angel, how will this be, since I have not known a man? Epi andrau genosko. I have not known a man. Mary's question, verse 34, you can see she's confused. She thinks the angel is saying that the conception is to take place immediately, but she's not yet married, so how in the world can this be? And so then again, they here is a transitional marker. Post, you have this interrogative adverb, which here is introducing a direct question: how will this come about? At B, since causal conjunction, it's introducing a causal clause here. U ginosko, I'm a virgin. I'm not knowing a man. We could say idiomatically, I've not had sexual intercourse with a man. This present tense, the aspect is durative. It's carrying the idea that I'm not presently knowing a man. I'm not engaged sexually with a man. So she has not had intercourse with a man. She continues to not have intercourse with a man. This usage of the word no obviously has deep lineage, and it's very Semitic. It's not only Semitic, it's also Hellenistic. It's just, it's very, very common. So you hienosco, and then verse 35, Let me just roll up on the screen here a little further. Let's look at verse 35. Um, and the angel answered and said to her, the Spirit will come upon you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. Therefore, also, via therefore also, the one being born will be called the Son of God. Just to mention, apokrites from apokrinomai. You've got an aorist passive participle here. Uh, we would call this grammatically a participle of attendant circumstance. It's redundant. Aphthe here is the dative. It's an indirect object. Epi plus the accusative. And then you've got dunamis, power. The Spirit of God. God is coming. The Spirit will come upon you, and you've got this. The Spirit will come upon you, and power. The power from the Most High will ipsistu, from the highest, will overshadow you. So epi skiazo. It's just a future active indicative, and it just means to be enveloped. So power from the Most High, from God, will envelop you, will overshadow you. And then you've got the reason. Therefore, for this reason, VOK. It's inferential conjunction, and it's being used with this adjunctive K to introduce here the emphatic logical conclusion to what's just been said. Because of all this, therefore, or for this reason, the one being born will be called the Son of God. And interesting to think about the genitive there. Son of God could be just a genitive of relationship. Son of God is the predicate of the verb called, but it's a secondary predicate since the primary predicate is the adjective holy. So we could say, for that reason, your child will be called holy and the Son of God. By the way, I think this is the first usage of the title Son of God in Luke, this isn't first a relational description. This is a messianic title. And so we do well to avoid just sort of thinking about this in relational terms, like this is God's Son. No, it's messianic in its very nature. Verse 36. And behold, again, Keedu, Elisabeth, your relative, has also conceived a son herself in her old age, and this is the 6th month for her, namely the one being called barren, Elisabeth. This is just a hanging nominative here. Just look at this word like sugenes, like a kinsman, a kinswoman, if you will. It's just a relative, someone's relative. So, and it's just standing in apposition to Elisabeth. Obviously, Jesus and John are related through their mothers, but here, that you've got this kinship language. So your cousin Elizabeth, and then you have in plus dative. The preposition here is just adverbial, and then you've got the verb kaleo, the epsilon contract. The one being called, because you're dealing with a present passive participle. And so the participle is adjectival, just limiting the pronoun, and, and introducing here a modifier for her. Mary hasn't asked for a sign, but she's given one. They said she could never have a child. Is the idea, and so stera is to be barren. And we've talked about that a couple of times. And here it's just functioning as a subject complement, and this is because the participle is passive, and so the subject, um, the one in apposition, receives the action. It's a dative. It's in agreement with the subject, and therefore uh, you've got a double dative construction. You see that sort of thing. I think we saw it actually a few verses earlier, um, as well. So, and now verse 37, uh, a causal clause is being introduced, hoti, uk, because every word from God will not be impossible. This is really interesting phraseology. In English, this just messes with our head. It's a use of a double negative here with uk and the alpha privative on dunateo, another epsilon contract. And so what's going on here is, um, this causal clause is explaining why Elizabeth's pregnancy was possible, because nothing is impossible for God. But that's not how it's stated in Greek. It says uk, and then you have dunatese, from dunateo. So no, nothing, no word, no thing, this negation. So it's negating the future negative verb to be impossible, and it's emphatic. For no promise of God can fail is the idea. Um, and so you just got this statement meaning something like no word, no promise from God is devoid of power. It's not going to break, um, because nothing is impossible, because every word from God will not be impossible. In other words, every word from God is possible. All that God says will come to pass. Just interesting phraseology and use there. It's just nice Greek idiom. Just a very strong way of saying nothing is impossible for God. And then verse 38, Ipen de Mariam, then Mary said, Idu, he dule Kyriou, behold the slave of the Lord, um, genoita me. Um, uh, it's another Genoita is interesting because this word is translated often as, for the word amen. Amen is not a native Greek word, but it just means so be it. Um, and Yanito, in the same sense here, is then Mary said, Behold, the slave of the Lord. Let it happen. Let it be to me according to your word, right? According to your rema. Uh, let it happen to me according to your word. And the angel, what happened? The angel Apelthen departed from her. Um, so Mary is just complying. Let it be with your word to me. Mary is submitting to the Lord's will and is placing herself in the middle of God's plan for human history. Um, and notice the language of servant or slave or bondmaid of the Lord, a slave of the Lord, a dule. She's a slave girl. I belong to the Lord, my body and soul. Um, and then the optative, as I already mentioned, genito, may it be. It's just expressing a wish, and saying, do what you have destined to do. And I'm in full agreement with that. Amen. I'm giving you my amen to this. And then you got the dative pronoun, kata plus the accusative, according to, and then apo plus the genitive, just expressing something here like separation, like a genitive of separation away from. And the angel departed from her. I don't know. I think that's enough for now. So let's just stop there, and we'll pick up Luke in verse 39 in the next video.